Nick, thank you. I'm genuinely delighted to welcome you to your first NASUWT conference, and thank you for your kind words about working with me and with the NASUWT. At the risk of damaging my street cred, I do think it's only fair to say that in opposition and as a minister, you've always been prepared to meet and to engage in debate, and we've had some interesting exchanges on a range of issues. And I do thank you for the work I know you have done on the issues of anonymity, on pupil discipline and the issue of the BMP. As you know, we've still quite a lot of detail to discuss around the application of those particular issues. I do want to just raise two issues from your address, and the first one was pensions. And I think, Nick, given the emotion behind this issue, quite rightly, it's important to get the facts straight. And actually, the cost of teachers' pensions for the taxpayers is not 10 billion by 2015. That's the total cost of all public service pensions. The cost of teachers' pensions is a fraction of that. You also need, I think, again, to look at the issue of teaching schools, because some things don't add up. First of all, what about the contractual entitlement to CPD for teachers? Without that, teachers will not get the CPD, whether it's in teaching schools or higher education institutions. And also, why are you cutting 70% from the university teaching budgets? These things don't add up in terms of the context of what you said. But as you know, Nick, although you're very welcome, the invitation was, as you said, issued to Michael Gove. And when he declined to attend, I began to reflect on why, and thought from his point of view, because I do try to do that, that it was probably the equivalent of a pupil being invited to meet their form teacher for a review of their behaviour. And they know that the news isn't going to be good. So I thought that what I would do is that I would put you in the position of the surrogate parents, and I'd give you the report to take back to him. Now, can I say that one of the messages we should give to Michael is that, first of all, Andrew Lansley, Health Minister, one of Michael's classmates, is in just as much trouble. But he did at least turn up to apologise, albeit reluctantly. Now, Michael's behaviour is a cause for concern. It's not helped by the fact that he's keeping bad company. He's going round tempting him into bad ways. They tell him he should remove the safeguards on limits on classroom observation at a time when teachers are facing excessive, debilitating and punitive monitoring, often carried out by those who no one can remember the last time they taught. They tell him that they are burdened with unnecessary regulation, recording and reporting of incidents of bullying, health and safety, equality duties. Now, what Michael needs to recognise is that to give way to this is pandering to those bad influences who think that the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to them. And they're often the people whom the rules were brought in to deal with in the first place. Now, unfortunately, Michael's been involved in some educational vandalism. He's been caught attempting to break up the National Pay and Conditions framework and he seems oblivious to the consequences. The National Pay and Conditions framework is part of that universal entitlement for all children and young people to be taught by teachers who are recognised and rewarded as highly skilled professionals and that have working conditions that will enable them to work effectively to raise standards. Even his friend from Tesco, who's advising him on school capital, will tell him that he has national pay and conditions for all his staff to ensure good quality of service. If it's good enough for shoppers, why is it not good enough for the children and young people in this country? Now, Michael's also been getting into trouble over damage to school buildings. His decision to scrap the Building Schools for the Future programme will leave many schools in a state of unacceptable disrepair. The position is so bad that Michael's even had a brush with the law on this matter. Now, I'm afraid that Michael's also been caught encouraging others to behave badly. He's been encouraging covert decision-making by heads and governors on academy conversion to minimise opposition, disenfranchising parents, local communities, staff and trade unions, and leaving schools vulnerable to legal challenge for flouting 2P and public law. Now, even worse, he seems to be offering them financial bribes to behave in this way. He might also wish to know that he set such a bad example to others that some head teachers who've taken their school through such a profound change, which has got adverse implications for children and young people, for staff, parents and local communities, are then jumping ship by taking retirement, or they're setting themselves up as consultants to the school on a part-time contract at almost the same rate they were receiving at full-time. Disgraceful behaviour by anyone's standards. Now, I'm afraid that Michael's also been found not to be telling the truth. He's often said that education in England has plummeted down the league tables. Now, and yet he found himself a few weeks ago at the first ever Education and International OECD Summit in New York for the top performing countries in education in the world. We had met the rigorous criteria as a country, the country that Michael favours and copies from selectively, I might add, Sweden had not. Now, in Michael's favour, he did have the grace to admit at the summit that it was nothing the coalition had done which had gained the England's education system such a high ranking. However, this good behaviour was marred by him truanting from the session on working with trade unions. The only other country not there was Korea. Now, this may be an inconvenient truth for Michael, but he does need to recognise that the top-ranking country had a comprehensive system of education, national pay and conditions framework for teachers, and strong working relationships with trade unions. Now, his behaviour, of course, isn't helped by the fact that he's made some poor subject choices. The EBAC is far too narrow for such a clever pupil. He needs a broader view of what constitutes a good education. Subjects like music, art, design technology and RE are worth much more than Michael seems to think. A broad-based curriculum can really make a difference for a pupil at risk of disaffection and disengagement. Now, I've raised these issues with Michael before, but his response was quite frankly disappointing. He went and told some journalists that I didn't represent the interests of teachers. He also said this morning that I have no moral right to do what I'm doing.